Welcome to Bridging Gaps, the business podcast sharing the challenges and stories of fellow business owners.
Hello, I'm Deborah Levitt, your host. This week, I'm in conversation with Geraldine Joaquim. Geraldine is the founder of Quest Hypnotherapy and Mind Your Business. We talk about her passion for preventing problems rather than focusing solely on solving them after the fact. We look at her journey from a corporate career with a side hustle to setting up and running both Quest Hypnotherapy and Mind Your Business. Her desire to make sure that companies have happy employees, which will ultimately lead you to improved profitability and productivity. Geraldine has some great advice for us, both personally and professionally, including talking about networking, dealing with some of the loneliness and challenges that we can have as entrepreneurs and business owners. At the end of this week's episode, we're joined by Moira Martin. Moira is from Kelly's Storage Charity Division, and they are putting on an event on the 14th of October. It's the Cross Country Challenge. She provides all of the details and some more information about it at the end of the show. She will be on the show as a guest in the next few weeks, but we didn't want you to miss out on hearing about this event, just in case it's the sort of thing that you'd love to do. And now, please join me in welcoming Geraldine to the show. Hi, Geraldine. How are you?
Hi, Deborah. Yep, good, thank you. Nice and sunny, so summer's here.
It's been so lovely to have so much sunshine, hasn't it?
It has. It lifts the spirits. I think everybody smiles more, and we talk more because we love talking about the weather here.
I know, it's great. And now, though, what I've noticed is I think is quite funny is that, because we've been up so high into, sort of 29, 30, that when it gets down to 24, we're all going, oh, it's so cool. And yet normally any other summer, we'd be like, oh, it's so hot.
It is. Yeah, for sure. I think we're being spoilt with sort of Mediterranean weather. And yet we still complain because we're British. So,
Well, you got to talk about something.
Exactly.
So, Geraldine, you have two businesses. You've got Quest Hypnotherapy and Mind Your Business.
That's right. Yep.
Would you like to just sort of talk and explain what you do in both of those businesses, please?
Sure. So Quest Hypnotherapy was my original business. That's what I trained for when I trained in psychotherapy and hypnotherapy. And I went into it fully intending to see people on a one-to-one basis, the same as sort of hundreds of thousands of other therapists who come out of any sort of psychotherapy training. But as I was going down my journey of building my business, I realized I was seeing a lot of people for anxiety, depression, some of it work-related, in fact, quite a lot of work-related stuff, as well as things going on at home. And it got me thinking, it got, me planning, sort of thinking along, where do I want to go with my business? What's going to happen with it? And also I felt really bad for all these people coming to see me with these issues who, I helped, which was fantastic. And it's a really uplifting business to be in when you get results, when you're helping people and you see the difference you make. But it did get me thinking, how did they even get there? Is there not something between being, the person you were before, the sort of, you would term, and I'm doing my air quotes, the well person, happy person, to where they were now when they came to see me, when they were either depressed or they had anxiety issues, fears, phobias, whatever it was. And I also have quite a long background in the corporate world. I don't mind going in and giving presentations, standing up in front of people, talking to people. I love talking. And it sort of organically developed into building a second business, which was aimed at the corporate market, at businesses, to prevent that slide down into anxiety, into stress burnout. And that's really how Mind Your Business came about. It does sound rude when I answer the phone. Hello, Mind Your Business. Or filling out forms when they're asking, what's your company name? Mind Your Business. But it is about working with the mind for your better business. That's really how the two came about. And they kind of complement each other, because on the one hand, I'm still helping people to deal with their personal stress issues. But on the other hand, going into business, helping them to design mental health plans and prevent that slide down into stress burnout.
Because one of the things that I guess wonder about is, we're talking so much these days about mental health, which is absolutely fantastic. Yep. And we talk about the need to be more open about it and to, allow people to actually, say what's wrong, as opposed to it being something which is hidden away. But I still wonder about how we can actually, so if you're running a business, you ultimately have a goal, which is to make money. That's what we're in business for. Yeah. And there's almost a natural concern that if somebody comes to you and tells you that they've got a problem, and that problem, you can feel the sympathy for the individual, and you might be able to see things that you could do if it's because of the work that they're doing. But then there's this natural side, which is about, well, hang on, what's going to happen in terms of my business? What if they can't do the work I need them to do? What if it's going to mean that I don't, or we as a business don't achieve? And I do sometimes wonder if they are almost conflicting. And I don't know if you've come across anybody or have, I guess, guidance on how do you overcome those opposites that need to somehow come together.
It's actually very pertinent. I don't know if you've seen on the news just this morning, the Heads Together campaign about bringing mental health awards to communities. So that was a campaign that's spearheaded by the Young Royals. And so we've got a lot in the media about mental health. When I started all the marketing stuff for my Mind Your Business, it was all about mental health. Everything, all my leaflets, flyers, everything was about addressing mental health, bringing mental health into the open. But I quickly realized that the corporate world, the business world, is not quite ready for that. So we see all this in the media. We see celebrities coming out and talking about their own experiences. But it doesn't really translate, because in the business world, you're absolutely right. Bottom line, that business is there to make money. If it doesn't make money, it doesn't pay the salaries of the people who are working there. It doesn't progress, it doesn't grow. Now, the premise is that really behind every business, you've got the people working in it. None of us are productive if we're not in a good state of mind. Anybody who's got any children will recognize this. If they're not happy at school, they won't perform. If you're not happy at work, you won't perform. And that doesn't mean not having stress. It doesn't mean going in every day feeling hyper positive, and because that's just annoying to everybody. What it means is being resilient to stress. It's when you have the customers calling that are giving you a headache, when you have into conflicts between other people in the office, when you have deadlines to meet, when you have high pressure points. Those will continue to happen, but it is about how you deal with them, and it's building resilience to them so that you can bend and bounce rather than build up stress, get stress overload, and actually, for a lot of people, go into overwhelm. And of course, all stress doesn't originate from work. People have stressful lives outside. Yeah, exactly. So the bottom line of Mind Your Business is about educating businesses, promoting a culture of more openness, so that you allow your employees to approach managers to be able to say, I'm under pressure on XYZ, maybe make small adjustments to keep them in work. You build huge amount of loyalty with your employees that way. And don't forget, your employees are your advocates to your customers. Your employees inform the culture of the whole business and the way they talk about that business to other people around. So that's why keeping my little moniker of happy people equals happy business is slightly tongue-in-cheek, but actually that's what it means. If you keep your employees happy, you build their loyalty, you have better productivity, less absenteeism, less staff turnover, all those big costs. And that means that they will look after your business, so your business will grow and develop.
And as you say, it's building that, I guess, that loyalty, which people then actually respond well to. It's, when somebody does something for you and you feel that they can support you, you do feel that loyalty, you do feel that happiness. And also, I think that if you're able to express the dissatisfaction for whatever reason. So when, because let's face it, if you've got, especially in the big corporates, you're not going to make everybody happy because there's so many people that, we all need different things. But by being able to at least bring that up and to explain your situation, it just helps you to feel better. It feels like you've been listened to. It
really does. Yeah, it really does. And it can be as simple as one of my clients I saw earlier in the year. I was in the middle of doing a workshop, and we were only about 20 minutes in, and one of the guys there sort of stood up and left the room, and I didn't really think anything of it. I assumed that he'd sort of had some work to do. And we were only 20 minutes in it, so I don't think I'd bored him yet. So, we still had a ways to go.
Had it been 40 minutes.
Yeah, you never know. But at the end of it, the business owner who had brought me in to do this workshop on, it was actually on mental health and stress in the workplace. He said, "Oh, sorry about so-and-so who had to leave the room." Now, he was going through... it wasn't a good time for him to be in a room doing a course that dealt with mental health and stress, because he had just found out that his wife had cancer. One of his parents was very ill, and he was having to care for the other parent. So, those things at home really can inform what's happening at work. Now, all that needs to happen is that he's not looking for massive adjustments at work, but maybe a little bit of leeway on appointment times to take his wife to the consultants, a little bit of leeway on working from home instead of having to come into the office. Those kind of small adjustments make a huge difference to the person. If many of your listeners might relate to having children, if you've got a sick child at home, being able to have an atmosphere where you can call into the office and say, "Look, I'm okay, but my child is sick. I need to be at home because somebody has to look after them. Can I work from home? Or can I take them to the doctor? Can I be in late?" Whatever. Having that open conversation with somebody takes a huge amount of stress out of your life if you know you've got that easy access of communication.
Yes, and that it's not going to be a big deal. It's not, "Oh God, he or she was sick last week or last month," or, if you've got a child who is, potentially going through something as well, it's actually, no, they trust me. They know that I'm only calling in because I do need to do it. It's not going to be a problem. They know, that the employer knows that you're reliable. Because I think that for me is one of the big things about probably working from home is it is that trust, actually, that the employer needs to trust that you are a responsible adult who is actually capable of working from home and doing it. And I do sometimes get the sense in some situations that trust isn't there, and that there's a need for that control of, if you're not sat in the office and I can't actually see you, then so it's building up that trust from all different angles, isn't it, to enable those discussions about whether it's mental health or anything else.
Yeah, and it's also it's led by the management, by the corporate culture. It's led by policy within the company. What is the policy? Does the person know where they can go to, their first port of call? It might be that they're not comfortable talking to their direct manager. It's just having policies in place and steps that the employees know where they can go. The managers know what's happening as well. So it's working together on these things. And you will generally find that if a company shows willing and is open and has leeway with its employees, the employees have a huge amount of loyalty. So when they do need to work late, when the deadlines are there, when they need to deal with difficult situations, the employee is there because they accept that they've had, they I won't say they love their company, but they might do that. They identify with their company because the whole culture enables them to do that.
Yeah. And it gives you, because for me, especially having been, worked as a project manager for, the last 20 years or far too long, there are peaks and troughs. And to me, you shouldn't always be working at that stressed level where you're having to do long hours, you're having to do this, because that's when you also get stressed and life around you starts to happen. Yeah. But knowing that you're going to have those peaks and troughs, and I know people can't see me making little wave movements with my hand. But then you can go, okay, well, it's a bit quieter right now, so I am going to maybe step back or use the time to do other things and not worry about it, because I'm going to, have to put in the longer hours when we hit this peak. And as you say, you're much more willing then to do it because you know that it's all just, give and take, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is. In fact, there's something called the human function curve, which exactly shows that, that when we're on this upward trajectory, it's great. We're feeling stretched. Below that, we're bored and we're disaffected. As we go up on the curve, and again, people can't see me using my hands, but you go up on the curve, you feel stretched, you're challenged, you've got that attitude of wanting to improve, get better, and do the job, life's working, everything's fine, and that's your real sweet spot. But of course, just over the top is the stress bit, the stress hump, and that's where things can go wrong. That's when you've got under too much pressure, when things have gone slightly awry, and of course then you slump down into mental illness and issues. Now, that human function curve can also be applied to a business, because most businesses also operate on the same way, in that you start off small and you have no customers, and everything's is a bit sort of a worry about how it's going to turn out. Then you hit your sweet spot, you're moving along, you're getting bigger and better. You get to a crisis point, which is when you probably need to take on more people or start turning customers away, whatever it is, and then something gives and you go to the next stage. So you expand, you change the way you're operating, whatever it is. So we all go through, humans and businesses go through these sort of crises points. And, that's perfectly normal. We are creatures that need a certain amount of change. We like stability, of course. Everybody does. It's part of our sort of human nature to want to know what's happening, in the next day, and that we've got a certain amount of stability. But we also like challenge. We also like to feel that we're pushing forward, that we're making change. And on a hormonal level, we don't stay static throughout the day. We don't wake up and feel one mood throughout the day. Every interaction we have with our environment around us, with the people around us, will move us up into, feeling really happy. It moves us down into feeling cross or, feeling a bit low. We have this sort of fluid movement all through the day, and that is being human.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just an example of that is I'm not a morning person. And I was going, as you know, I sometimes go to the Institute of Directors breakfast in Guildford, which is, for me, it's a very early morning. So it starts at 7. And I got up and I was, it's pain. But it's such a lovely meeting.
Yeah.
But so I was, driving there and there was traffic, which I was surprised at because it was so early. And then there was this one car that was really loud. And I can remember just looking at this car and it was loud. And I was thinking, he's got his boy eraser on. And why does he need to have this? And why does he keep doing this? And then a little bit further along in the journey, I was thinking, I guess at least, he's out enjoying it. And just before he turned off, I was like, actually, it's kind of sweet that he's obviously enjoying the car. And I sort of looked at that, I thought, okay, I've clearly gone through a transition of, being half asleep.
Yeah.
And my whole, it's the same car, the same guy driving. I don't believe he'd changed his style of driving at any point. So as you say, little things change.
Absolutely, they do. And, the time of day, I'm not a morning person. There are some people who love the morning and then they need an early night. Getting to know yourself is a really important part of sort of recognizing your own mental state. My husband knows that he does not talk to me very much in the mornings because I do not have very many answers first thing in the mornings. The only question really that I need to be asked is, do I need a cup of tea? Yes, please. Beyond that, nothing. And you recognizing that whether you're a night owl, whether you're an early bird, whether your best work is done in the middle of the day, all those things, once you start to know yourself, help you to work better, help you to manage your life better, help you to get on, don't put yourself right in front of the customer at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning if you're not a morning person before you've had a cup of coffee, so learn to work with yourself.
Something I saw a while ago was, I think it might have been a post on LinkedIn, and somebody had posted and said, oh, I went around the office and, I switch off the lights at 7 o'clock and make everybody go home. And there was this one person who was there and I sent them home. And they were it was a very self-congratulatory, I'm looking after their mental health and I'm making sure they don't work late and sending them home. And all I could think of, well, you might have actually just made it worse, because if you don't know why they were there and you haven't addressed that, so if they've got a meeting at 7:30 tomorrow morning that they're not prepared for, and without understanding what it is and helping them to make a right decision, whether that's actually we're going to move the meeting till 9 so you've got more time, or actually 11, or whatever it is. And I just wondered if that's something that you see as well, that people are taking an action which, and don't get me wrong, this person wasn't, they were obviously doing what they thought was right and was, doing my bit to help people, but maybe missing the point. And I just wondered if you find that people are, but I've ticked all of these boxes.
Oh, ticking boxes. Oh, yes. Don't get me started. Yes. Ticking, but right, with mental health particularly, we have a lot of companies who are putting on, I'll slightly go off on a tangent, but I will come back to that, who are ticking their boxes by having a wellness week. So a whole week devoted to wellness and mental health and offering it to their employees, which is fabulous. But mental health is not a week-long thing. Mental health should be something that is done every day of every week of every month. It's not just something that you tick the box on. Yes, we've provided mental wellness for our employees. It is about bringing mental wellness into your business as part of the culture of the business. So getting back to that, the LinkedIn article, well, it's so important that you have two-way communication. As you were saying, you've no idea what that person is going through. If they are working late because they have too much workload, something needs to be done about it. And it's not just turning the lights off one day a week and sending them home early. It may be that they have issues at home. So work is a refuge for them, somewhere that they can just focus on something else, rather than whatever's going on at home. It may be that they work better in the evening, that most of the morning they're actually not very productive and they find that they're better in the evening. Our workplace has changed in that traditionally you have the office you go to, but the digital age has extended our working hours. So whether you're sat at your desk at work or you're at home with your mobile device or your tablet or whatever it is, and an email comes through and you're still... So actually the way we work has changed a lot, but we still have this mental idea of this Victorian setup of 8 hours work, 8 hours rest, 8 hours sleep, which is, was set up, I think it was, I might be completely wrong on this, but I think it was the Bourneville family who set it up, the Quakers, to give their workers who were working in their factories this idea, this idea of having 8 hours rest, 8 hours sleep, and then 8 hours work. But we still have that mentality. We still have that 9 to 5 mentality, and yet we've extended it by working more. So that rest phase, that sort of play phase has all but disappeared. We also then augment our day by stealing from the night. So our sleep patterns are changing. We, of course, we've got TV, the way we watch TV now has changed immensely. We have our tablets, people sleep with their phones by their bedsides. All of these things have changed the way we live. And a lot of the time it means that something's got to give, and a lot of the time it's sleep. Sleep is the thing that we give least attention to, and yet it is one of the most important activities we have. It's one of the foundation, in fact, of our health. So it's in a way, our habits have changed, but our brain hasn't quite caught up yet.
Well, and I think that as you say, that original 8, 8, and 8, we also then have the fact, so when I was traveling up into London to work, there was at least, so on a good day, if everything worked, it was an hour and 3/4 travel each way.
Yeah.
Nothing ever worked. So you were looking more at 2 hours at least every day. Yeah. So suddenly you're doing your 8 hours, but you're doing an extra 4 hours on top of that. So as you say, you've already completely eaten into that rest time. And then you don't necessarily feel like using it, or you're staying up later to give yourself that gap or whatever. Sorry, Woody has just leaned over to rest on my knee to say, yes, you're absolutely right, Deborah.
You need a comforting head,
That's right. Clearly, sleep is very important to Woody. But it seems, so there are all these, and I know that there are people who have been doing this for years, that they spend 4 hours or more traveling up. Yeah. And as you say, nothing has shifted. There's nothing around us that has said, well, why does it have to be an 8-hour day? Why does it have to be 9 till 5? That we just kind of go, no, 9 to 5, you've got to work 9 to 5. Yeah. That's what you've got to do.
The mentality of it is still there. And also when you're on that train, when you're on that journey, you look around you and what are people doing? Most people are plugged into some sort of digital device. A lot of them will be working. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of my corporate career sort of hanging around airports because I used to fly around a lot, travel the world. And every single lounge was full of business people with their laptops out. And actually throughout the years, I started traveling probably, about 20 odd years ago. And I remember having a tri-band phone, and you had to change the band when you got to a country. I used to take a bag full of different connectors to be able to connect my laptop up to various plugs and all sorts of, just to get some connectivity. And it was always a nightmare because this was back in the days where you had sort of dial-up stuff. We used to call an AT&T number and dial in, and it was just how easy is it now? You can literally go there, you log on and you're there. It's changed immensely. But through all those years of traveling, I have seen a ramp up of people working as they travel. They're not, and the latest news, you can now get Wi-Fi on aeroplanes. The one area in your life where you had some downtime.
Exactly. It's like I was safe.
I know. Honestly, that was the biggest bit of bad news I heard, was that you could start doing Wi-Fi. You could continue working. This idea that you're continually plugged in, continually working. You're not allowing any rest time, any downtime for the brain, which is so important. So no wonder we're stressed. We're living in an age which is really fast. Things are happening. We've got to keep staying on top of the ball. The information overload that's coming in. It is a different landscape that we have now than even 10, 15 years ago. And yet our poor brains haven't noticed there's been a change in wallpaper. They're still stuck in our caveman days where everything out there is a danger. So it hasn't really registered that the actual wallpaper of our lives have changed immensely. because it's happened so quickly.
Well, and it's continually happening. And that's something which I was talking to somebody about the other day. I can't remember if it was in an interview or if it was just somebody else. And it's funny how many conversations I have with people and how often we end up talking about whatever you want to call it, the lizard brain, the reptile brain, but that little core piece of us that, as you say, hasn't changed at all and is still there dictating and driving how we respond and react to so many things. And that we try and ignore it and almost to be going, well, no, I shouldn't be behaving like that because, there's this other part of your brain going, but it's all moved on. And yet that is such a core piece of us that it almost feels to me, we should be trying to accept that and go, okay, well, if it's telling me this, maybe it's telling me that I need to stop for a reason. Maybe I need to stop. Maybe it's not just scared for no cause.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That reptilian brain, it does not care about your happiness. It's not interested whether you've got enjoyment in life, or all it cares about is survival. So if what you did yesterday helped you get through the day and you survived to the end, you will be encouraged to do it again. So that means if you are working on your laptop till 11, 12 o'clock at night, well, that clearly is a strategy that helped you get through the day and survive. So therefore, you'll be encouraged to do it. That's why things like Facebook, things like other social media is so addictive, because we do these things and we get rewards as well. We get the little tick. Do you remember back at school in your exercise book, you got a little tick, and how good that made you feel? Guess what? Facebook know that. You get a tick, you get a like, and that raises, you get a little squirt of dopamine, which is your reward hormone. It makes you feel good and you want more of that. And that's why these things, we keep on this treadmill of wanting to get those likes, wanting to get approval all the time. And we're probably have never been in an age where we are so outward looking and yet so insecure inwardly than we are in this day and age, because our village is global now. We no longer have to just get approval from our local neighbours and our friends and family. We now want approval from the world, from all these other people on the internet. And it's also taken out a layer of personal interaction. You're sitting behind a laptop, you're not actually dealing with somebody face to face, communicating with them. So it's very easy to be rude and malicious and to send a throwaway comment, whereas you wouldn't dream of doing those things to somebody if they were sat in front of you. So our social boundaries have changed completely, and again, a really short space of time, so our brains don't quite keep up with it.
And I was wondering as well, because one of the things I've noticed, and it's perception, not necessarily fact, is that we almost now feel that we have the right to know everything. So, so we've got all of these reality shows, and, we've got reality shows about, well, everything, but, we've got reality shows about the life of a cat, the life of a dog, the life of a child, who's 2 or whatever. And I'm not saying I never watch any of them, but sometimes I think, well, if that cat is happy and he's going off and doing whatever cats do when they, scoot out of your house, do we really need to know? Do we have the right to know? And do we need to watch somebody watching TV? And I do just wonder if we've become this kind of society where we feel that we have the right to know everything. And we worry about it. I'm sorry, worry is maybe the wrong word, but we focus more on that. We focus. So rather than going, well, actually, I'm going to have a chat with Geraldine, and we're going to have a lovely chat, and we're going to just talk about whatever conversation happens to bring. Then I'm thinking, well, actually, there might be somebody who's listening to this. I want to know what that listener's thinking, and I'm now focused on that outward view rather than on the actual interaction. Does that make sense?
It does, and that we are creatures who are designed to live within social structures. Part of living within a social structure is knowing where you sit within that social structure. So there've been loads of research into things like chimpanzee troops. And even within animals who perhaps don't have the same conscious awareness as humans do, it works the same way because we have the same brain setup. So the way that a social structure works is that you're always looking out to see where you fit in the pecking order. Clearly, nobody wants to be at the bottom. You might not really want to be at the top, or you might vie to get to the top, but you certainly want to know what your neighbours are doing. You want to align yourself with stronger ones because it's about your survival. So you want some safety, but you might also want some weaker people because they will lift you up and make you feel better. So that's what it is. So we are very interested in what the neighbours are doing, keeping up with the Joneses and seeing what the latest celebrity, outrage is, because it makes us feel better. Things like soap operas like EastEnders and Coronation Street, millions of people tune into these things. Probably because their lives on the soap are dire. Things are always happening, and they're depressing, and they're going through such bad things. Very rarely do you have a wedding that goes really well. There always something happens bad. And as a viewer, that makes you feel better because no matter what's happening in your life, it's never going to be as bad as what's happening on the soap opera. So again, our village is very big. It's informed by all sorts of things that, that are not things that we're actually directly connected with. The news, we watch the news and we see things not long ago, North Korea looked like it was on the verge of releasing, nuclear weapons on the world until Donald Trump stepped in, and he might just get a Nobel Peace Prize by default. But we see all these unexpected. We see these things and we take them on board, and our reptilian brain is seeing danger. It is taking on board that potentially we've got life threats going on. Now, we might not do anything with that because what are you going to do about North Korea releasing a nuclear weapon? But it takes it on board and it ratchets up that stress sort of level in a small way. For some people, when Brexit was announced, when the referendum came through, there were people crying in the car park over the announcement. There were people who took it on board so personally, and yet what can you do? So our access to news, our access to celebrities, our access to looking into other people's lives is hugely different than it was, and it informs the way we deal with our own lives. It also informs how our brains are going to be working. It informs us, it informs the way we behave and we react, and how you feel in the pecking order of things, which is part of your survival strategy.
And that's interesting because, I guess as you say, that when we're looking at all of those things, it is that our village is no longer just the people around us. It's much more, it's global.
Yeah.
So Geraldine, if we just go back a little bit, so you've mentioned, we've talked about what you're doing now. We've talked about the fact that you had, a corporate career and we're traveling around the world doing lots of different things. How did you find it when you came out of that corporate career? How did you find making that transition to something that has a lot of structure, a lot of control innately built into it, to setting up your own business in a completely, hypnotherapy being something completely different to what you were doing?
Yeah. I've always, or not always, but for a very, very long time, I've run a side hustle because I knew I didn't want to be in the industry, in the corporate world that I was in forever. And so I always had the view of something else at the end of it. Now, my first side hustle was my diving and safari business, which I absolutely adored. I loved it. But it's very, very difficult to run a side hustle under the radar. And by that, I mean no social media, because I didn't want to jeopardize my steady income working for the company with conflicts of something else. Now, what I was working in, the travel industry was completely different to the job I was doing in international marketing. So there wasn't a conflict of interest, but I just didn't want them to know anything about it. I didn't want there to be any idea that, I wasn't performing and doing my job because I had this other interest. And I really, and it is very, very difficult to build a business, certainly in this day and age, without advertise, without doing social media, without building lead funnels and all the stuff that we have to do. So I ran that for about 10 years, and clearly having one job was never enough as well. So time was always quite precious. I then also had 2 children over a period of time, so time got really squashed. And after 10 years of doing it, which was my absolute passion, I decided to finish it because there were changes in the regulations, in the CAA regulations, which made it very difficult for a small company. But then I looked to the next thing, my other exit strategy, looked around, came across hypnotherapy, which I had used myself in the past. I'd used it for motivation after an cruciate ligament reconstruction in my 20s. And I'd also used it for when I had my 2 daughters, so hypnobirthing. So I'd sort of come across it, but I'm not a woo-woo person. I find myself highly surprised that I ended up in what could be termed a woo-woo job. What I like about hypnotherapy is it's the practical clinical side of it, that it is about changing the hormone balance within. It's not about just think positively and the world will come right. This is about chemical change. So going back to that question of how do I find the change, it's mixed bag, actually. On the one hand, I just as a quick history on this, I sort of did my training, then spent a year still working full time, thinking that my hypnotherapy business would grow organically without too much effort. And I'm being sarcastic on this because nothing grows organically without much effort, without doing social media, without doing blogs, without pushing yourself out there. It came to the mid last year where I had the opportunity to basically finish my contract, and I thought, you know what, it's now or never. So I finished the contract with the company that I was with, and then at the beginning of this year went full time into it. And you probably now see me on social media doing my blogs, because that's what you need to do to run a business. And I love it. Honestly, I love it. There are, ups and downs. On one day you might be thinking this is never going to work, I'm going to have to go back and get a job. Then on the next day you connect with someone and you fall in love with it again. And throughout it all, I absolutely believe in what I deliver. I believe that my message of preventing, deterioration, stress overload, all those things is absolutely crucial for so many people. I love talking about it. And I think that helps. I think that's the difference. It's got to be a passion when you run your own business, because that needs to outweigh any of the feelings of doubt, worry about money, worrying about getting a cut in the next customer, worrying about just being on your own, not used to. Second guessing your own decisions is a huge issue for me. You make a decision and you think, should I have done that? Whereas when you're in an office environment, you would bounce the ideas off a colleague or a manager. Well, you're on your own. And that's quite a scary thing. Certainly, going out and networking is great because you talk to like-minded business owners, you meet people. That helps to keep your creative juices flowing. It's a huge pool as well of resources, as well as potential pool of customers or referrals. But do I regret it? Not at all, because I know if my time, what I do with my time is up to me. If I want to sit at home eating chocolate and reading a magazine on a Monday afternoon, I could. I'm telling you, I don't, because I really want my business to go. I really want to push through that, and I love doing it. And that's the difference between a job and doing your own, running your own business.
And so do you find, as you say, you can do what you want. And by the way, if you are going to sit down on a Monday and eat chocolate and it's as hot as it has been,
Yeah.
I would eat it really quickly, because otherwise you might find that it melts. I'm only guessing. But have you found that there are, you talked about, not having somebody to bounce ideas off of, have you found any particular challenges that you've discovered through, rather than a side hustle where you were, trying to do lots of things all at once because you were still, in the full-time job, but just some surprises, anything that you didn't expect about coming out and starting your own business?
Having to learn so much so quickly has been a big learning curve for me. My background is marketing, but when I did my marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, this was pre-internet. So everything was trifold leaflets and direct marketing and building customer relations and all of those things, but nothing to do with social media, websites, building all of the stuff that we do now online that is just normal. When, I didn't have any social media a couple of years ago. I didn't have Facebook. It just wasn't my thing. But I've had to dive headfirst into it. I've had to get to grips with MailChimp. I'm loving Canva because I love doing all the designs and the things like that. So it is. And one of the hard things actually is knowing when to stop doing it and to go and ask for help and to pay for that help. It's a very small cost in terms of getting someone to do something for you instead of you spending hours sweating away at something that you just don't get to grips with. So that's been quite a learning curve, I think, diving into the social media side of things. Yeah.
And I think you're right in terms of the knowing when to draw the line and say, actually, even if money's tight, is that money that is well spent, because it means that I'm not stressing about it. And I don't mean in terms of it necessarily, taking you down a depression route or any of those things, but it's just worrying you when actually you might say, actually, I could spend a small amount of money and this person will just have it done. And whereas, as you say, things like, I use Canva all the time as well. And it's just, I really enjoy going in and having a play. And, every once in a while you think, well, actually, should I get, and I think, well, no, at this point, this works for me and I enjoy it and I'm quite proficient at it. So it's the right thing now. But it is hard to, I think, and this is something I've come across a lot. I think people making that decision to actually part with cash is really a big deciation, because there isn't a monthly paycheck.
No, your money is even more precious because it's not salaried. You are earning every penny that comes in is because you're doing something directly in correlation to bringing that money in. So I'm not saying a salary is not precious, it all is, but you certainly, when you don't have that regular income, that salary coming in, it does matter. And I think it's slightly about a mindset change, but I think there are too many website, sort of web ads and gurus out there telling you to spend your money with them, grab the next shiny sparkling thing. This is the secret sauce that's going to make your business work. Come on this web, and you can just go down social media rabbit holes just by being drawn in too much to all those. So I think getting your blinkers on a little bit, staying true to what you do, not looking at competitors too much, because that ratchets up your own stress, thinking, oh, they're doing really well. Again, that sense of where you are on the hierarchy, looking over your shoulder at what other people are doing. It's being true to what you are doing, and persevering with it and taking action. That's the other thing. We all have, I think every business owner has their dream of what they want with their business and where it's going to go. But unless you take action on steps to get there, it won't come to fruition. So I think it's very easy to sit behind your computer, and I love playing with Canva, so play with Canva and play with this and play with, but you need to then move it on. And I think that's what's really important with being, and not trying to be perfect, you know.
No, absolutely. It's better to just get it out there and then to hone it as you go. And on that, you know, I remember when I first started, and I basically had said, okay, so I need to do a website and I need to do this and that. And so I put it all in place, and then, you know, nothing was happening. And then I realized, I remember telling somebody this, I said, I realized that what I had done was I'd essentially got everything in place, and I was now sitting in a room with the lights off, the door locked, you know, the curtains drawn, and wondering why nobody could find me, because I hadn't actually given or you know, actually opened up to trying to encourage people and discuss it with them. And it was like, okay, yeah, maybe that wasn't the right focus, that the things that we think are the priorities aren't always the ones.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, when you start on your own, I definitely remember having this feeling of, you know, the Google Maps thing, sort of being in my house, and there's my big Google Maps red pin. Here I am. Where's the world? You know, here I am, I'm ready for you. And then thinking, where are they? Why aren't they coming to me? So it's about you going out there. And, you know, we've never had so many resources at our fingertips. You know, we can use all the social media stuff, LinkedIn and Facebook groups, all these things. But we have to go and use them, and we have to go and actually going to networking, actually meeting people face to face is really, really important. Number one, to get yourself out there, but number two, to get yourself out there so that you're not stuck at home on your own, you know, trying to do another Canva thing, but actually out there meeting people, because actually that's where your business is at.
And there is almost this safety thing about being at home. And as you said, you know, getting out there and networking, and also recognizing that not every networking group is the same. So if you go to one and you think, oh my God, that was horrible, I hated it, and therefore I'm never going to network again, it's actually going, no, actually, that group wasn't the right one for me. So now I'm going to try this one and see if that's the right fit. And recognizing as well that sometimes I think we put up, you know, so we go to something, and because we're uncomfortable in it, we come away thinking, oh, it was horrible and it's not right for me. But the reality is that's our fear speaking. And then actually being able to think, well, hang on a second. Was it that bad? Is it just that I need to go a few more times and start to relax? And then I can assess if it's the right thing for me. You know, so I do not like going into a networking session where all it is people standing around talking. So for me, that is a really uncomfortable situation, and that hasn't changed. I'm more comfortable going into it, but it is still not my preferred environment. I'm much better and much more comfortable, and I think much stronger in a structured environment. So where something is happening, where somebody will take control, even if there's a bit of...
there's always milling at the beginning and at the end, and there always is a little bit of that. But I always think if you push yourself the first time, by the time you go the second time, you'll have at least recognized somebody that you're with. And then if you go to a few different groups, you will find that there's a lot of cross visiting between them. So suddenly you'll see people that you know from somewhere, other group in this one, and it becomes more familiar. It's, you know, that old reptilian brain of ours hates change. It hates pushing ourselves into a situation where we're uncomfortable. Most people, 99% of people, would rather not walk into a room full of strangers and have to push themselves out there. But you can do it, and you know, if you've done it once, you can do it again, and you can do it again. So it's not quite life and death, although sometimes it feels like that and certainly to the reptilian brain, where they just think, just go home, just go back to bed. It's 7:30 in the morning. What do you do? What were you thinking? Why are you here? But actually 9 times out of 10 it's very useful. You'll have some connection, and I don't think I've ever actually walked away from any networking event that I've been to yet where I thought, well, that was a complete waste of time. There were ones where you think, yeah, I turned up and I showed, and they were very nice. But not, I haven't come away from one where I thought, I wish I hadn't gone. So it's,
And it does just, I think depend. There are some for me where I've thought, okay, that wasn't beneficial. But again, even if I came away thinking that I still learned something, because I've learned that one's not for me for the future. So you've essentially ticked it off as our tick list again. And you said, okay, no, I did try that. It didn't work. And I can pragmatically look at it and say, yeah, actually that one isn't the right style for me, or the right people.
And you can only learn that by trialing it. You can't find out by asking somebody else what did they think, because different things. So, yeah.
Well, exactly. And also sometimes the things you hear, as you know, we're both members of the Athena Network. But when I first went to one as a guest, I was not expecting to like it. I had heard various things from other people. I wasn't sure about a women's only network. And I really enjoyed it. And I know from speaking to other people that, again, not everything is equal. So who's the leader of that particular area impacts it as well. But again, it was a complete, so it was kind of, oh, shoot, I like that. I said, the breakfast, I really did not want to like an early breakfast.
They're good, aren't they?
Yeah. Geraldine, if we were to just look now a little bit, so we've talked a lot about mental health, and we've talked about taking care of ourselves in the work environment, and the companies needing to take care of their people as well. How do you look after yourself, not just from a mental health perspective, but balancing, your family, trying to set up a new business, and just keeping yourself?
It is, life is busy. We've got time, we're all sort of time poor these days, and we all have to fit so much into them. I run, which for me is just I won't say my savior, but it certainly helped me through some tricky times, because being out in the fresh air, I like running outdoors. I don't like running in the treadmill in the gym. I run with my dog, so I know that I'm giving her good exercise. I can talk to her. She listens. She doesn't answer me back, and she just thinks I'm right all the time. So that's great. I'm, pushing my body, but allowing my brain to freewheel. So that for me is really important, and I'm quite precious about that. I know when my mental health isn't quite what it should be when I stop being interested in running, because I'm always thinking about where am I going to go tomorrow? I haven't been to that path before. I'm going to try that. Now, when I stop thinking of that, and I've lost my mojo. I know that I'm on a slight slump in my mental health, and I know it starts to pick up again when I start thinking, the weather looks good. I'm going to go out once this week, and it's not about beating records, getting personal bests, any of that sort of thing. I just enjoy being out and running. Also, I try, and I'm not perfect at this because I think perfection is an impossibility anyway. When I'm with my children, particularly now we've got summer holidays, I try and be with them in body and spirit. So that means not thinking about what emails I have to do, not thinking about if I get through the next hour of watching whatever video they want me to watch or doing whatever they want me to do with them. I'll get through this period and then I can get back to the computer. It means actually enjoying being with them, listening to what they've got to say, and spending that time with them and setting some boundaries so they know. I know, for instance, in the mornings, particularly with the summertime, we're nice and lazy. We don't have to rush out anywhere. I can come down, do a couple of hours of work. They're quite happy milling around doing whatever they're doing. They're not toddlers or babies anymore, so they are a little bit more self-sufficient. And I know that it's not forever. This period is going to pass, and I don't mean that in I wish it were over and they're back to school, because I really enjoy the summer holidays. I really enjoy that they're at home. We all need the downtime together. And I think it's really easy to forget why we're running these businesses, why we're pushing. Yes, we have a passion for our businesses. Yes, we love our businesses. But ultimately, we are running these businesses so that they pay us money to support a lifestyle to support us being able to go out and walk the dog at 9 o'clock in the morning and not at 6 o'clock in the morning if you have to walk a dog and then get into the office. It's about that. So enjoy the lifestyle now rather than trying to work hard for the future, because you never know what's going to happen. And that's very key to me, being present and knowing that whether it's stressful this week because I didn't get much work done, doesn't matter because next week's another week.
And that's really wonderful. So normally I ask people if there's anything they want to say to other business owners, but I think you have actually just summed it up there with with thinking about why you're doing it and not waiting until some time where it seems right. Just doing it now. Is really a really good and positive thing to think about. So just before we wrap up, Geraldine, is there anything that you would like to say just generally to our listeners, whether it's another sort of bit of advice or a final thought for the day, or just a little bit more about your business if they're interested in contacting you? I do obviously put all the links and everything up.
The thing is with stress is part of our everyday language. We use it quite readily for minor stuff and for fairly major stuff. And we all have it, and it's not going to go away. And we all have pinch points in our lives. We all have periods where we're feeling under pressure. And then we have periods where we're feeling that everything's flowing and it's all relaxed. The point of building resilience is not to try and look at techniques and hints and tips and what to do when you are stressed. It's about bringing in everyday habits that then build resilience, that actually get you through those stress points without you almost having to think about it, because you've already taken on board habits. And I don't mean spending an hour meditating every morning or doing gratitude journaling every night. If those things work for you, then that's great, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think to some degree, this whole idea of mental wellness has got really bad branding, and it needs to be rebranded, because if I started saying meditation, mindfulness, yoga, all of these things, headspace, people, it absolutely turns people off, and it's all about the branding of it. So my message really is bringing in tiny habits into your daily life which help you to build resilience for future stress, for everyday stress. That is the key to having a healthy life. It's not about trying to do something, in itself. If you try to bring in an hour's worth of self-care, that will add stress into your life, because where do you fit that into your day? So it's really finding tiny pockets of time where you can allow a bit of brain freewheeling, just to be without a mobile phone clutched in your hand, and not to be pried out. It's about just bringing in tiny habits into your day, and that will help you to build resilience, and accepting that stress happens, and accepting that you're not perfect. So those are my things.
That is really fantastic advice, Geraldine. Thank you very much. And it's been a real pleasure talking. It's been a real pleasure talking even. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. It's absolutely been fantastic. And I honestly could just keep chatting all day. It feels like just a chat we're having, which is lovely, really nice.
I've been in conversation with Geraldine Joaquim of Mind Your Business and Quest Hypnotherapy. You can find Geraldine at mind-yourbusiness.co.uk or questhypnotherapy.co.uk. All of her details will be available on the podcast show notes. The number of people listening to podcasts is increasing year on year as people look to break free from their screen and consume information on the go. If you'd like to know more about podcasts, then please go to whatsthisIhear.bridginggaps.uk. Are you considering your own podcast? Why not check out So You Think You Want Your Own Podcast? It's an online course that introduces you to everything that's involved in hosting a podcast, as well as working with you to define your own podcast concept. You can get more information on it at startyourownpodcast.bridginggaps.uk. With some information on the Kelly Storage Cross Country Challenge, which is being held on the 14th of October. I know that you've got an event coming up on, I think, the 14th of October. Would you like to just tell me a little bit about it and how people can get involved if they want to?
Yes, indeed. Well, this is an annual event. We've been holding a run in October for several years, but this event is at Loseley Park. It's beautiful grounds, quite an exclusive route, and we're offering, it's a run, but we've got half marathon, 10k and 5k, so any distance, push yourself, but it's also a lovely family event because we've got a children's race, 1k, and the children all get a medal. Everybody gets a bespoke medal. It's 4 challenges. It's a wonderful charity based in Guildford in the southeast, Farnham and so on. And if you enter, all the money that is raised goes directly to challenges. And you can enter online. If you go to charity.kellystorage.co.uk, you'll find all the details, and you can make your donation there and know that it will find its way directly to the charity. And we've got a fantastic pull this year because Susie Chan, who's an ultra runner, is supporting the event. Sadly, she's unable to come on the day, the Sunday, October the 14th, but she's already done a recce and run part of it. She's recommending it highly, and she set a time so that you can try and beat Susie's time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes, yeah. And there's also a King and Queen of the Hill event, so whoever goes up this steep hill, in the fastest time will also get some kind of acknowledgement. The Mayor of Guildford is going to be there, and there are activities. We've got great refreshments, locally supplied activities for the children. Yeah, come along. There's a massage afterwards in case you.
So can you get the massage even if you don't do the run?
Well, as long as you make a donation to the challenges.
Okay.
No reason not to.
So once again, if you're interested in the Challengers Cross Country Challenge, it's the 14th of October at Loseley Park. You can find all of the information out by going to charity.kellystorage.co.uk. And don't forget, all of the money that's raised will go directly to the Challengers charity in the Southeast. Bridging Gaps, the business podcast, was produced by Deborah Levitt of Bridge Road Consultants Limited, with original music provided by Pete Dineley.
You've been listening to Deborah Levitt on Bridging Gaps, the business podcast.